The primary objective of IT security operations is strictly defined: identify threats, implement administrative controls, and safeguard organizational assets, ranging from digital data to physical facilities. This text highlights the legal foundation governing these operations. It establishes that senior management holds a direct responsibility to exercise due care and due diligence. Implementing baseline security operations concepts and conducting periodic audits mitigates their organizational liability in the event of a breach. Achieving this standard requires acknowledging that security is an active process of engineering deliberate administrative friction. Building a zero-trust operational model means mapping out the controls necessary to regulate behavior, starting at the most granular perimeter on the network: individual access to data. Operational security translates corporate legal obligations into technical constraints, protecting the organization from its own users. This section of the study guide defines the first layer of containment. The need-to-know principle dictates that users receive access solely to the data necessary for their specific work tasks. Its explicit function is to restrict visibility and keep secret information isolated. We contrast that visibility restriction with the principle of least privilege, outlined here. This rule governs the specific actions a subject can execute, mandating that they receive only the system privileges required to perform their assigned tasks, and absolutely no more. As this technical note points out, enforcing least privilege relies entirely on well-defined job descriptions. Without a precise accounting of an employee's role, administrators cannot accurately map the necessary access rights. When users operate with unrestricted local administrator or root access, the environment becomes highly vulnerable to privilege escalation. If an account with full control inadvertently executes malware, the malicious code inherits those exact same administrative rights to modify the system. These access restrictions apply equally to non-human subjects. Services and automated applications require specific accounts to run in the background. Granting those service accounts unnecessary administrative rights creates a highly exploitable vector for attackers who manage to compromise the application. Implementing both need-to-know and least privilege establishes a strict blast radius around every node. A single compromised account or service remains confined by its limited permissions, preventing a localized breach from cascading into total system failure. This excerpt introduces segregation of duties, a policy ensuring no single individual holds total control over a critical function. By dividing administrative capabilities, the system forces potential attackers to conspire or collude, significantly increasing their risk of exposure. This policy creates a mandatory system of checks and balances. Users must verify each other's actions and work in concert to process high-risk tasks, such as approving and then separately issuing vendor payments. We see this practically applied through two-person control, requiring dual approval for critical tasks, much like a safe deposit box that requires both a bank employee's key and a customer's key. When we functionally combine segregation of duties with two-person control, we achieve split knowledge. The data or privilege required to execute a secure command is fractured across multiple users. By mathematically engineering the need for collusion, organizations ensure that fraudulent activities become logistically complex to orchestrate and highly detectable to auditors. Moving to personnel-based controls, this section details job rotation. By systematically rotating employees through different operational roles, organizations establish continuous peer review and cross-training. This pairs directly with mandatory vacation policies. Forcing employees out of the office for continuous 1- or 2-week increments ensures that a different staff member must temporarily take over their responsibilities. These policies serve dual purposes. Psychologically, they act as a deterrent because employees know their work will be reviewed. Operationally, they serve as unannounced audits, placing a fresh set of eyes on the workflow to detect irregularities. This technical note emphasizes financial organizations, which face severe risks regarding employee fraud, mandate all three of these policies: segregation of duties, job rotation, and mandatory vacations. Deploying time-based administrative friction guarantees that an individual cannot maintain exclusive, unchecked control over any critical process indefinitely. This brings us to the ultimate gatekeeper for system access. This text outlines how privileged account management solutions restrict elevated accounts, specifically targeting powerful credentials like domain admins and enterprise admins. Modern PAM frameworks operate on a just-in-time administration principle. Instead of users holding permanent elevated rights, they must request access, and the system issues a temporary, time-limited ticket. This control effectively neutralizes common Kerberos exploits. Because the ticket automatically expires after a short window, often just 15 minutes, any credential harvested by an attacker quickly becomes useless data. This level of strict access control is necessary for detecting advanced persistent threats. As this alert details, once an APT gains a foothold, they attempt common privileged operations, accessing and deleting logs, creating rogue accounts, or scheduling hidden tasks. We pair PAM with security information and event management systems to monitor these precise actions. By configuring alerts for specific behavioral flags, such as the execution of malicious PowerShell scripts linked to Event ID 4104, defenders identify unauthorized activity immediately. Eliminating standing privileges strips threat actors of their camouflage. Every time an attacker attempts to move laterally or alter a system, they are forced to request or execute elevated actions, generating immediate, detectable noise. Ultimately, the highest directive of any security framework supersedes data protection. This passage establishes that personnel safety concerns are the absolute priority, noting that while servers and facilities are replaceable, human life is not. This directive dictates physical infrastructure decisions. In a data center emergency, an organization must configure electronic locks to fail open, prioritizing human egress routes over the physical security of the server racks. For personnel working under potential coercion or isolated conditions, this section outlines duress systems. Examples include the use of conversational code phrases that silently signal an emergency to a monitoring center, or the configuration of secondary, silent alarm codes on cipher locks. Safety protocols extend to external environments. When personnel travel, the organization mitigates the threat of on-path network attacks over unsecured hotel or cafe Wi-Fi by mandating the use of corporate virtual private networks to encrypt all transit. We sustain these operational controls through continuous awareness training. As outlined here, organizations must educate staff on identifying insider threats, recognizing social engineering vectors, and understanding the severe network risks caused by two-factor authentication fatigue. A highly secure operation actively engineers a landscape of precise, deliberate friction. It regulates access, forces accountability, and monitors deviation, all while recognizing the human operator as both the system's most critical vulnerability to manage and its most valuable asset to protect.